Okay, so let's take a look at a live example so you can see what we're going to be covering today. And just for a quick agenda, every Friday we do a case overview where I show you what we're building, and then we're going to architect the application, table design, data page creation, authentication if needed, and also deployment, which we'll be covering today. And today's session we're not actually doing a full implementation video. I had a request come in for two different things. They're a bit more advanced. They're both requests from customers, and I felt they were a good fit for today's session. So let me show you exactly what we're going to be doing today. So a lot of you are probably used to by now building your reports, being able to search. So you see the search form, then you click search to get to the results. And at times this can get a little tedious because you always have to keep going back and forth into the search form, select your parameters, click search to get to the results. So I had a request from one of the customers who asked me, can we combine everything together into a single page? And the answer is yes. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do two charts side by side. In the middle I have a search form, and underneath my search form I have the results page. So I can filter directly from a single page. So this is a total of 4 data pages. 1, 2, 3, and underneath we have 4. So then when you select your criteria, let's say we want to get the results for Chris, all 3 of these data pages will filter based on that selection. So now you can see that Chris's performance, I can see how many items he sold, and directly below I can see just Chris's information because we're filtering based on his name. You can also do date range if you'd like. You can search based on model of what you're selling and also the category of the office supplies. Okay, and the second thing we're going to be doing today, which I felt was a pretty neat thing to do, is if you have a results page full of contacts, and at times you'd like to create like a PDF alternative without having to actually do a customization through Caspio. So if you click on the link here, it's going to open up a new tab, and then you can see a customized look and feel, something that you can print. And notice that what I'm doing is I'm passing parameters to this document. So I'm passing these 3 fields for my results page. So if I click on, let me close this one here and show you one more time. So let's go to Kirk, and if I click on this link, I'm passing these values in the URL inside this document, and we can see Kirk's information populating. So if you're looking to do a PDF, this can be used for events or invoices. This is a pretty good advanced feature that you can enable in your application. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions before I begin today's training session. I always like to do that before we start, so let me unmute the line and feel free to submit a question via chat if you have any. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. And the first thing we're going to build is this customized search results page with 2 charts at the top, search form in the middle, and the results page at the very bottom. Let me just refresh. Okay, so let's go to our Caspio account. And what I'm going to do is click on New App, and we're going to upload some sales data into our account so we can have something to filter. So we're going to start by clicking on this button, and let's call it Filter Charts Results. And I'm going to locate my sales data that I have in Excel. Click Next. So this is all straightforward. We're just uploading data into Caspio. We're going to call this sales data with an underscore. I'm creating a new table. We're going to click Next. You get to see the sample data set of what you're uploading. Click Import. Okay, so it's 14 records that we have. I'm going to click on Close, go directly to my application now. And there's my table. So I can click on that. I can click on Open to view the data. And you can see we have 14 records. Okay, so to create this functionality, you need 4 data pages. Okay, and you're going to embed 4 data pages into a single web page. So we go to Data Pages, and the first thing that I want to build is my search form. Okay, so I'm going to click on New Data Page. And instead of building a report, which is a Caspio's report that you can build, which is a combination of search, results, and details. So this is combined. What we want to do is we want to separate the search form from the results page into two different data pages. So to create a search form, we're going to go to Forms and we're going to click on Submission Form. So this is actually going to turn into our search form, and you're going to see how in just a few minutes here. So click Next. We're going to connect our sales data table to that search form. I have my style, my localization, and let's call it search form. Make sure you enable advanced options and parameters. This is very important. You can also apply authentication if you're password protecting it. Okay, so what search fields do I want to search by? So let's search based on sold by, sale date, category, and model. Now, if you leave it as these fields here, this means that it's going to be inputting data into the table. Okay, so you're still building the submission form. What you need to do is you need to insert what we call virtual fields. Virtual fields don't actually submit data to your table. They're looking at the data inside your table. So that's what we use virtual fields for. And I'm going to need 5 of these, and I'm going to explain why. So I'm going to insert 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the reason why I need 5 is because I have 4 fields, but my date range is going to need an additional field. So search from to. So we have a date range. So the first one that I like to convert is sold by, like this. And there's my field here. I'm going to remove this later on once I finish configuring all of my virtual fields. So the first one is sold by. I'm going to make this a drop down. We're going to use both lookup tables and custom values, and the first option in my drop down is going to say search all employees. Delete the value because you're not really searching for this, and then the lookup table is going to select your sold by column from your table. Okay. The second field that I want to search on, oh, one more thing that I forgot to add. When you're actually creating virtual fields like this, you have to go to the Advanced tab and you have to pass the parameter. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine sold by. So what you're doing is you're passing this parameter to the results page so you're able to filter it later on. So this is also very important, the sold by parameter here. And you can call it whatever you want, like I said. The second field is going to be category. I'm going to keep the sale date for the last one. So category will be the second one. And this is also going to be a drop down. We'll do both. And I'll say search any category, delete the value, and then the category from your table, you're going to select category column from the sales data table. And just like the sold by field, I also need to go to the Advanced tab here and pass the parameter as, let's call it CAT for category. The next one is the model, so we'll go to virtual field 3 and we'll say model for our label. And we can also make this a drop down, both. And we're going to select model from our table, like this. And also in the Advanced tab, we have to pass model. Okay, and then we have the date fields. So there's the virtual field 2 and 1. So what I'm going to do to the first one is say date from. I'm going to enable my calendar pop-up so I can select the date. And in the Advanced tab, I'm going to pass the parameter, and let's just call it date F. That stands for date from. Same thing for the second one. This is going to become now date 2. Calendar pop-up, Advanced tab, and you're going to pass date with a T, for example. Okay, so now that we have all of our search fields and we're passing parameters across all the virtual fields, now I can go ahead and just remove my actual fields so I don't submit any data to the table. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions when it comes to virtual fields. They're really meant to not submit data into the table. It's just looking at your data from within the table. That way you can make a search form, or there are different use cases for virtual fields, but this is the most common way to use them. On the next screen instead of seeing your submission was successful, so we don't want a confirmation message, all I want is the same form, so it refreshes. If you look at the example, and if I click submit, there is no confirmation message. It just refreshes the form. And when you're done, go ahead and click finish. And we can preview it now. And there's my search form. I'm going to go ahead and deploy that right away. So let's go ahead and close this and click on deploy. Copy my code. And I have a sample web page set up here for us, which is this one here, Sales App Demo. Actually, let me, oh, not this one. Let me close this. There's another one that I have set up here. Here we go. So let me deploy to this page here. So we're going to open up my notepad. And let's go directly to this page. And right over here where I'm going to put my deploy codes, I'm just going to go ahead and paste my first deploy code like this. Okay, so I'm going to click on save. I'm going to refresh my page. And here's my search form. I do have a quick question here. Let me take a look. Give me a second. Melissa, the reason why I selected the non-virtual fields, you always have to have at least one field in the form before you can click next and continue. But I usually like to add all of my fields in there so I know what virtual fields I need to create. It helps me remember what search fields I'd like to have. So that's a good question. So, okay, sounds good. So let's go on. If you look at our live example, notice that I have a single row here. And in my deploy data page, I have one column. So let me fix that really quickly. So let me edit the form. And as long as you have the advanced options enabled, you're going to see this advanced tab. So what I'm going to do next is create that one row effect. So I'm going to highlight my virtual field 5 and click on the advanced tab, and I'll say continue next element on the same line. And I want the label position to be on the top of the field. And when you check this box here, you'll see a little comma here for reference, which means that now you can continue putting fields on the same line. So if I go here and say continue next element on the same line, label on top, continue, label on top, label on top. And for this last one, there's nothing else to continue because there are no more fields. All I'm going to do is say label on top of the field for the date field. So click finish, refresh, and there you go. Now you have that search form effect. Just like on my live example, we have a couple of fields, and the next step is really just to create the results page underneath. And now I'm going to show you how you can receive those parameters inside the results page so you can filter on all of these fields that we have. So the second data page that we want to build is the report, and we're going to go with the tabular format based on the same table, sales data, and let's call this sales results. It's very important that you enable advanced options and parameters. And now that we already have a search form, we don't really have a need for it, so we're going to go with filtering, and you have to make sure you allow parameters and external parameters to be received via the web. Okay, so click next here. And now we have to include all the fields that we're filtering our data on. So we need a sold by field, date, category, and model. Okay, so now we just have to configure the filtering fields because we are passing these values, all 5 of these, to the results page. So we have to make sure we filter the data based on what we pass from the search form. And these are the 4 fields. So we're going to have sold by. You're going to go to the advanced tab and you're going to say receive parameter externally, and we called it sold by without the underscore. So remember, whatever you put inside that search form, however you're naming it, naming convention, and whatever you're passing it as, you have to make sure you receive it the same way here. And you're going to say if empty, ignore criteria, which means if it's empty, if it's a null value, it's going to ignore it. It's going to show you all of the results. Okay? And then let's set up the rest of these. I'm going to keep the sale date for the last one. Let's go to category. You're going to receive the parameter. and we call this cat, just abbreviated. And if empty, ignore criteria. And for model, receive it externally, and we called it model. If empty, ignore criteria. Now for the sale date, you have to insert what we call new criteria here, which creates two additional options below the date field. You want to set this to and because we're searching from this date and that date, so it's a date range. Criteria 1, you also have to receive this parameter externally as date F, for example, date from. If empty, ignore criteria. And under the standard tab, you want to make sure you select greater than or equal to for the first criteria. The second one is going to be less than or equal to, and you also have to receive this parameter externally as date with a little t for date 2. And if empty, ignore criteria. And that's it for the filtering fields. So you click next, and now you'd like to display things inside the results page, so we can have the sold by, sale date, category, model description, and these two fields. And really quickly, we're just going to perform some calculations here. Hopefully you guys are advanced enough to know how to do calculations by now. The first thing I'm going to do is group based on my employee, so I'm going to enable grouping. Okay, and then we're going to insert a calculated field. I'm going to move that all the way here. I'm going to give it a label as total, and I'm going to perform the calculation between these two fields. So I'm going to insert quantity sold times price per item, and I'm going to format this column as a currency. So we have a dollar symbol there. Click OK. And one more thing I'm going to add to my report is totals and aggregation, because I want to be able to pull up a grand total across all the sales revenue, and we're going to base that on this field here. I want the sum function so I can get a grand total at the bottom, and I also want to apply the sum to every single group that I have. So if you're grouping, it's going to apply a sum to every group. Click next. I'm going to list, let's say I only have 14 records, so why don't we just do 50 here. Click next, and we're going to disable the details page for now. Click finish. Alright, so now you can see that we have two data pages, and you get the idea. You can separate the search from the results, or you can use our one data page, which is a combination of all three steps: search, results, and details. But this can also be very useful in a lot of different cases. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this now. And let's go to my notepad. And all I'm going to do is paste that code directly below my search form. Save my page and refresh. Okay, so there are all my results. So hopefully this works correctly. If I search based on just Chris now, we're going to pass this value to the results, and we're going to filter the results based on just Chris's information. Okay, you can also select Jane, and that'll give us just the information for Jane. But if I select Jane and let's say just laptop, it's going to give me just one result. So let's make sure that works. So we select Jane, laptop, it should only give me one result, and there's that one result. Okay, you can also do a date range if you'd like. And I just want to make sure that it works. And I'm going to search based on June because I think that's the only record I have. Yeah, so let's search in June. I want June 1st to June 30th. So hopefully it just gives me one result. Perfect. So there's my June record. Are there any questions so far? Okay, good. So now let's create those last two charts that we can put on top of our search form side by side. So I'm going to go to Data Pages, click on New, and I'm going to build my chart. And I chose to go with the pie chart because I'd like to be able to see revenue based on every single employee inside the organization. So let me make sure that's the one that I'm using. Yeah, it's revenue, so we can see. Now there is going to be a little bit of JavaScript required here, and you'll see what I mean by this. I actually have to use this combination because right now we cannot store calculated values inside a table. It's really only for display. And so you know what I'm talking about. Let me take a look at the question. Give me a moment here. So before the filter is applied to the last example you gave, all results are seen as default. Yes, so yeah, that's correct. You'll be able to see all the results if you don't apply the filter. But if you apply the filter, then yes, it's going to filter based on what you select in the search form. Okay, so I have to use the combination of chart and results data page for my pie chart because, like I was saying, currently we don't have a way to store this value inside a table, so I cannot build a chart by itself, because if I try to do that, and let me give you a quick example. Just going to speed through this really quickly. Based on the sales data, we're going to filter. Notice that I cannot perform a calculation, so if I go to my chart here, there is no way for me to select that total value from the field or from the table because we're not storing the value inside a table. Okay, we only have these two fields. However, if I do select the combination, let me take a look. The combination of chart and results. Let me go back here one step. Sales data, advanced. Well, we don't have to enable advanced options here, and let's call this pie chart. We're going to filter because we don't need to search on the chart. And let's see, for filtering, I don't need to filter. And on the results page, all I really needed, all I care about is these two fields on the results page because I want to get the value, the total. And I'm going to include my calculated field. And really quickly, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to insert quantity sold times price per item, like this. We'll call it total. So this is not really going to matter later. All I really care about is this calculated field, because now when you go to the chart, let me get there for 1 second. You select the pie chart now. Now you can see that I have this available to select. So we have to use that data page in order to get to this field. So now I can display that total for all the employees on the pie chart. Okay, so it's a little bit of a trick or advanced thing that you can do instead of just using a chart by itself, because we're not pulling the data and we can't do a calculation if you just build the chart by itself. So we have to use this data page. So let's call it performance. And I think the width I can set to 400 and the height can be 350. The category is going to be sold by. Value, I'm not going to make any changes. And for this, we're going to have total. And I want the sum. And then we can format this as currency as well. Okay. So this will give me the sum across all of the employees. And actually, I did forget to do one thing. We have to filter the chart as well. I apologize, my mistake. Let me go back a few steps. And when you get to the filtering fields, we also have to filter the chart based on our inputs, based on these fields that we have in the search form. Okay, so in order for us to filter the data up here. So I have to include all the same fields inside my chart as well. So let's click next here. Sorry about that, you do have to filter on the chart as well. So I'm going to do this really quickly. Before I do that, I have to enable advanced options and parameters inside my chart, because I have to receive them. So sold by, we're going to receive that. Wait a minute. Sold by. Well, it should let me select. I'm trying to figure out where I'm getting confused here. So just bear with me for 1 second. Pie chart, sales data. Okay. Oh, I have to allow parameters and external parameters. So No matter how long you've been doing this, even for myself, I've been doing this for 5 years. You always have to go back and forth from time to time because you do it so often, then you end up making a mistake from time to time. So make sure you see parameters here in the chart too. And then under sold by, when you go to the advanced tab, you can receive parameters externally, and then we called it sold by without the underscore. If empty, ignore criteria. And quickly, let's set up the sale date. Set it to N. The first one is going to be greater than or equal to, and then I have to receive that parameter externally, and we call the date from. And the second one is less than or equal to, receiving that value externally as date to, and ignore criteria. And then we have category, called it cat. And last but not least, we have this one. I called it model, and if empty, ignore criteria. Everything else is good. I have my total value now here. I have my pie chart, and I have set up my pie chart correctly. And we're going to go ahead and disable the details page, and now let's go ahead and click on finish. And now let's go ahead and deploy that pie chart. So sorry about that. I didn't mean to overwhelm you or confuse you with that. It's just that I had to go back and forth a little bit before I figured out what I did wrong. So let's enable this now. And let's go ahead and copy the code. And what I'm going to do is paste that code above my search form. Okay, like this. Click Save. Refresh. Okay, so there's my pie chart, but notice that I'm also showing the results. Okay? So what we need to do next is use a little bit of JavaScript that I've done before in the past. I've actually showed that in different tutorials and different sessions on how we can hide the results. Okay, so we only display the chart. Okay, and this is a very simple thing. I actually have it already available in my other application here. So all I'm going to do is go to my application, go to my data pages, and go to my pie chart. I'm going to click on Edit. So this is my actual live example that I did. And I'm going to go to my results page. And in the footer, I'm going to grab that script. I have the script available. If anybody is interested, I can email it to you so you can use it. And let's go to my working demo here. Click Open. Data pages. Let's edit the pie chart. And let's go to our results page. And we're going to insert header and footer. And inside the footer, we're going to go ahead and paste that script. And all the script is doing is hiding the results. So all I want to do is display the chart. Click Finish. And now let's refresh. And there we go. So there's my chart. And now you can play with the width and height until you get to your own liking, how you wish to display that chart. Okay? And now I have to build one more chart, which is a line chart that's going to display, I believe, items sold. Okay, so let's go back to data pages. Click on New. And this time I can actually build this chart here, the line chart. So I don't need to do the other one because I'm not really doing any calculations. All I'm doing is displaying the data. So we're going to use the line chart. Let's just call it line chart. Make sure you enable both of these. Make sure this is enabled. This is what I missed last time. And make sure you're also filtering based on those fields that we're passing from the search form. And then just configure everything. I'm just going to do it really quickly. Sold by. And then sale date is going to have two criteria. Set that to N, greater than or equal to. Hopefully once you, now that you've seen me do this once or twice, you can follow along and you can just probably tell in your head what needs to happen here. So let's click on category, receive, it's going to be cat, and model, which is just little m. Okay, so now let's click next. Let's call it, what do we call this? Items sold. Okay, and I'm going to call the width 400, width 350. X-axis, I believe, is the month. Yes, it is. So we'll have that be sold sale date. We're going to group that based on month. And I want the rotation to be horizontal, which means that my label is going to be horizontal instead of vertical. And this is going to say month. Y-axis, I don't need to change. This is going to be just items sold. And then what we're doing is we're doing a calculation on quantity sold, and we're going to do a sum. And I also want to, well, I don't need to customize it. All I want is the marker to display as, let's say, the circle. And then let's go ahead and click next here. Next, and finish. Okay, so now let's deploy our last chart. Copy the code, and let's paste that code underneath my second chart, or underneath my first chart. So we're going to paste it right over here. Okay, so there are my two charts, and here's my search form, and here's my results page. I'm going to save my script. I'm going to refresh my page, and take a look what happens now. You're going to see two charts on top of each other, and then we have our search form, and then we have our results page. Now, depending on what hosting company you're using, if it's Wix or GoDaddy, they have a nice drag and drop system where you can just position a widget here on this side and then paste your code, and then you don't have to worry about div tags or table tags to align things and create columns. I'm going to go to my HTML script really quickly and just put in some table tags so we can put these two charts side by side. So it's just a little bit of a simple HTML code, and I'm going to close my first table here, open up a new table, and then, you know, this is just a simple HTML syntax to create a table and put two things side by side, and refresh. And now both of my charts are going to be side by side like this on this web page. Okay, but like I said, if you don't have an HTML background, you can Google these things now if you search for HTML tables, if you are working directly inside HTML. But if you have a nice hosting company like Wix, you can just drag and drop and put things wherever you want and just paste the Caspio code to position it in that place. I'm just going to put a little bit of padding here between my charts so it's a little bit cleaner. And that's also easily done if you can do it in your own website too. I use just a little bit of HTML skill here to create some padding in between my two charts. Okay, that's a little better. And I just have to play around with up, down, and positioning it correctly. Okay, so that is how you create search and results on the same page, and two charts now that you can filter. So just to make sure everything works correctly, if I search for Chris, my chart should just display Chris's data and items he sold. And at the same time, if I just leave this blank and let's just search based on the Lenovo laptop, click submit, I can see that Chris has sold this much revenue for that laptop, Jane this much, and then I can see how many items we sold in April. And I can also see the two sales reps that sold that item laptop, which is the T440 Lenovo laptop. Let me know if you have any questions on this setup. I do apologize, it was a little bit abrupt on my end because I was going back and forth. I hope I didn't confuse you. We just have to filter every single one of our data pages to receive those values from the search form. Okay, and I think the only complex thing here is the pie chart, because I want to be able to have this value inside the pie chart. I had to use the report data page, and all I did was hide the results so you don't see the results underneath this pie chart. Okay, so I'm going to unmute the line now to see if anybody has any questions. Let me open up my control panel here. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so the line is unmuted. Let me know if you have any specific questions. Okay, great. So let's move on, and now let's take a look at how we can create a results page like this. And then what we can do is click on this link where we pass the values from the results page into a new page, and it would create like a PDF effect, if you will. And then this can be used for a lot of different things. And if you were to do Control P here to print, you can print that file and save it to your archives if needed. Okay, so let's go to our Caspio account. And what I'm going to do is click on the new app to create a new application. We're going to import data, and let's call it PDF contacts, for example. Let me just quickly find my contacts table here. Here we go. Click next. And let's put an underscore here and say new. We're creating a new table. So same as before, we're just going to upload some data, and I cannot believe that I already have this name inside my account. So let me put an underscore here. All right, so there's my sample data set. We're going to click on import. It should be 209 records. There we go. Click close. And PDF contacts. Let's click on open. So again, there's my table. I can go inside it, I can click on open, and that'll show me all 209 records from within my table. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is go to data pages, click on new, and let's build the report first. So what I'll do is go to tabular report, contacts table, and let's call this view contacts. Make sure you enable advanced options and you enable parameters. I don't need a search form. Make sure this is set up the way it is. And in fact, always best practice, just enable all three of these if you're filtering data. That way you don't have to go back like I did earlier and have to re-enable it again. I'm not going to filter now based on anything. Let's just click next. And in the results page, I want to show the first name, last name, maybe phone number, email, zip code, and I think maybe company name. Alright, so I think you guys have attended, most of you have attended my advanced session where I showed you how you can pass parameters in the HTML block. So that's very important in this scenario as well. So you're going to insert an HTML block, and I usually like to move that all the way down, and let's call it view PDF. And what you need to do now is you need to create a hyperlink in the destination page where the user is going to go once they click on that link. So you create a basic hyperlink, ahref, and let's call it view PDF. And inside the quotes is where you have to input all the syntax in order to pass the parameters correctly. And the page that I have, let me just remember my page here. I called it pdflook.html. Okay. So we'll say PDF look.html, and then to pass a parameter, you have to use a question mark, and I'm going to go ahead and pass first name, last name, and phone number for now. So I'm going to say first name, FN. I'm going to call my parameter FN for first name equals, and I'm going to insert first name from my table as a string. To pass another parameter in the URL, we have to use an ampersand, and I'm going to say ln for last name equals last name as a string, and last but not least, we can say and p for phone number equals phone number here, string. Okay, so let's leave it at this for now. I'm going to click next and really quickly just disable the details page and finish. Now let's embed this report now. Click on deploy, and let's embed it into my, not PDF look, but it's going to be this page, PDF look demo that I've created. So here's my deploy code placing, my placeholder. I'm going to paste my report here, refresh or save my script. Let's go to the web. Okay, so this is the PDF Look demo app. Refresh, and here's my report. Now, if you're successfully passing the parameters, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of my screen when I roll over this hyperlink, you're going to be able to see that I'm passing first name, FN, last name, and the phone number. If I roll over the second one, I'm passing different information each time. Okay, those 3 fields. Okay, so hopefully this is not new to you. It's just industry standard how we pass parameters in the URL. So you'll see when I click on this link now, it's going to take me to this page. I'm successfully passing all of my values in the URL, but now I don't have anything else here. Now I have to create my data page that's going to receive all of those values. Okay, let's go back, and let's go back to our Caspio account. And before I move forward here, it's there are a lot of tools out there on the web that allow you to convert text to HTML. And this is very important because, and also very user-friendly, because now you can convert regular text into HTML if you're not HTML savvy. So if I were to go to Google and let's search for convert text to HTML, and I like to use this one down here. All of them pretty much do the same thing. I just like the look and the layout of this one. And here's my, actually no, it's not this one. Sorry, I'm using a different one here. Let's see if I can find it here. This is the one. Okay, so here's the text editor. I'm just going to delete all the information inside here. And here you can customize the look and feel of your document however you want. You can also use Word. Word allows you to convert to HTML, or if you have some kind of an HTML editor, you can do that really easily. I'll give you one example here. So let's say sample text showing here with first name, last name, and phone number. Now these are my placeholders because this is where I want to receive my parameters. I'm going to replace this with the actual name when I click on that PDF link. Okay? But what I'm talking about here is I can actually highlight all this text, and you have some options here. You can say, I want the font to be this type. I want this to be in bold if I want. I want it to be italic. And let's just say I want the color of the font to be, I don't know, how about red? Like this. Okay? And then if you click on the Source tab, here's your HTML for what you just wrote in a plain text document. So now you can grab this, and you can actually use this anywhere inside your HTML or anywhere inside your data page. So for example, take a look at my live report. And let's say you wanted to put a heading above the report to say something else. You will go to Data Pages, click on Edit, and directly inside the results page, you can insert a header and footer, and inside the header of your document you can paste that code. And let's rename this now to say contact results, for example. Now you have all that HTML around that, so what's going to happen to your report when you click finish and refresh, you're going to be able to see that contact results above your results. So it's a cool trick to do. It's a little bit of an advanced topic. You can find those visual HTML editors where you can just tab over from the regular text to source and grab your HTML, and you can add that HTML to polish up the look and feel of your apps. But where I was going now is I want to be able to receive those parameters instead of these fields here. Okay, I can also insert an image, for example. So let's say I click here, and here's my image button. I just need to find a URL, let's say to my logo. So I'm going to go to Google, and let's just say company logo. Let's go to images, and let's say this is my company logo here. I'm going to copy the image URL where that image is being hosted at the moment. I'll go back to my visual editor. I'm going to paste that link right here. And I'm just going to set the width and height because this logo is huge. I'm just going to say 150, and I'm going to put that logo on top of my document. Click OK, and there's the logo inside it. Of course, if you grab the source code now and grab all of this HTML, now the logo is going to be displayed inside. So where I'm going with all of this is I'm going to copy this code, go back to my data pages, click on New Data Page, and inside an actual HTML data page, let's call this PDF look, it doesn't matter. We also have to enable advanced options and enable parameters. And here you can paste any HTML you want. Okay, so all I'm going to do is paste that HTML in here like this. Okay, and notice that I cannot insert my fields because I'm not connected to that contacts table. So manually I have to receive them, and in order to manually receive them, you just have to write it out manually. So open bracket, at, and then whatever you called it, first name, like this. So this means that when you pass it from that results page, it's going to receive the first name inside this HTML data page. And then the last name at ln, and last but not least we have the phone number at p for phone number. And now you're receiving those values from the results page inside this HTML data page. So let's click finish here, and let's click on deploy, copy the code, and let's paste that code now inside my PDF look page. And notice I don't have any content here, it's blank. Okay, you can choose to have content if you like, you don't have to. I'm just going to put a blank page with my deploy code. I'm going to save my script. And now let's go to our example. Let me refresh. And what's going to happen when I click on this, it's going to take me to that page where I receive all of that information inside the HTML document. Okay, there's my logo as well. If I go to the next one, let's say Molly, there's Molly's information here. And now you can just really easily either put a print button at the top, just some simple HTML for print button, or you can do Control P to print the page. This can be used for contracts, agreements, because you can add a line at the bottom for somebody to sign. You can pass their information here. So this is what I wanted to show you, a little bit of a workaround with a fancy HTML editor that you can tab over back and forth. But this can also be used inside your forms if you wanted to create sections in a submission form. So really, really easy stuff. This is a very robust text editor, so you can go ahead and use this to create your HTML tags if you'd like. Just play around with the toolbars here at the top so you can figure out the best look and feel for what you're looking to do. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful for everyone. There are a little bit more advanced topics. If you wanted to get a refresher on how to create a search and results on the same page, we have a video on that as well. If you go to our how-to page, getting started videos, and if you scroll down a little bit here, okay, filter results on a single web page. Okay, so you can see the search form and the results directly underneath. So if you wanted to see how to separate the search form and results, just watch this video here, and I walk you through step by step on how you can do that. Let me pull up my contact information now that we finished. And again, this video has been recorded. If anybody wants to watch this again, send me an email after the training session is over, and I will email you the link to the video so you can watch it on your own time. And right now we're going to go ahead and open up the line for any questions, and you can also submit your question via the chat window.